Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I have been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also coached a varsity basketball program in northern Michigan that was very successful for many years. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. I love our Detroit Pistons, and I want to see them succeed. I can't imagine anybody wanting them to succeed more than I do. So I want you to be patient with me, and I know a lot of you are going to disagree, but I just want you to listen. We have a unique chance this year to have a 14% chance to draft Victor Wembanyama. And he is not just a great player. He is not just the top-rated player in the draft. He is a generational talent that could change your franchise, much like, look at the success LeBron James has had. Everybody says he is maybe better of a prospect than LeBron James, or at least as good. Time will only tell. He's tall. He could get injured. Who knows? But he is just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I honestly do not believe the Pistons will be ever in the market for tanking again after this year or trying to get a high draft pick. I think we are going to be all in on winning. I think we're going to have the players that can win. I was back communicating with John Beeline yesterday, and he said every day we are learning how to get better, and we really aren't that far away. But I just want to say, they had the big mega ball jackpot that was over $2 million in November, and it was the highest payout, and by over 400 million, it paid out more, and people were going crazy buying tickets. People were at offices were pooling their money and trying to buy a bunch of tickets for that. Well, their chances of winning that lottery were worse than getting hit by lightning. Well, here we sit with a team that's, we've struggled through some injuries. Cade's out for the year. Our record's not that good. And we could get up to a 14% chance. Well, that 14% chance, many of you will say, well, that's not great. Well, it isn't. It isn't a guarantee at all. So we could easily finish with the worst record in the NBA and have the 14% chance and still not get Victor. But I mean, it's the reward is so great, and since we are in the position that we're in, if we were winning and we were, even close to making the play-in tournament, I wouldn't say this, but we aren't, and we have Cade is injured, and so we are just in the situation that we can not try to lose. So hear my plan. The things that have to happen. Key is playing our young players. So like we played Charlotte the other day, and we won in overtime, and it was thrilling. And we played them, and everybody shot out of their minds. Duren had a fabulous game, and Ivy was pretty good. Killian had just a sensational game, and a lot of players shot out of their head. Knox was 4 for 6 and 3 for 5 on threes. We scored 141 points, and still we beat the best team, the worst team in the NBA, the only team that they were tied with the worst record with us, and we beat them in overtime. And so, and it took heroics. Killian had to knock down threes, but at the end of or towards the middle of the overtime, Coach Casey took Ivy out of the game, benched him, and brought in Burks, which, I guess obviously it turned out to be a good move if he wanted to win, but he ended up, Burks came in and he had just a clutch three, and Burks is just a great player, and he knocked down that three, and I don't think that we win the game. So that's a game we could have lost. We had another game where earlier in the year, I think when we were out west, that he benched Killian and Ivy and put in Kojo and Burks, and we pulled that game out barely at the end. So those are two games we could win. What you need to know is the difference between the bottom three teams get 14% chance of, which is the best odds of getting the number one pick. And so, you want to finish in the bottom three. And there's advantages to even finishing with the worst record. Helps you if the bottom three teams all don't get a high pick, which I'll explain in a minute. But the difference, you could win 24 games or 27 games. And if you win 27 games, you could end up easily, like last year, the team that won 27 games finished with the got the seventh pick, and the teams with the 24th wins got the second pick. So, one win here and there can make a big difference in doing it. And when you have a generational talent like Victor, and also you have Scoot Henderson, who is by all experts considered to be the second best pick, and maybe not as generational talent as Victor by far, but he's still considered to be a person who can really change. He would have been the number one pick last year, and he probably would have been the number one pick the year before. And again, that remains to be seen how good that he is. But the point is that we just need to play our young guys, still play. I mean, you're not going to bench Bogey and Burks, but you just play the young guys a little bit more. So the other big thing, though, is that I think that would really cement our draft position would be to trade Bogey. And I am in love with Bogey probably just as much as you are. I just appreciate him as a basketball fan. I love the way he plays. I love his game. And I'm not sure how many games we would have won, and we might not win any games this year without Bogey. And he has pulled us out in a lot of games where he has just been unbelievable. He is one of the best shooters in the league by far. Even he might be one of the only 5 players in history. If he can get his free throw percentage up from it's like 88.8, if he gets it up to 90, there's only like 5 guys in NBA history who have averaged over 20 and shot over 50% from the floor, over 40% on threes, and over 90% on free throws. And he could join that exclusive group with Steph Curry and those guys. So, I'm not for trading him. Trading him is way easier said than done. I do know Troy is loyal to his players. He told Bogey we were going to be playing to win. So I'm not sure that he would be against trading him, because I think he knows and realizes that he would want Bogey to have a chance to win. But here's the conundrum. Bogey is 33. We have him signed for next year under a good contract, and we have him signed for the following year for $20 million. And if we wanted to get rid of him, we only have to pay him $2 million buyout. So he's got just a fantastic contract. I anticipate very strongly that we are going to be really good next year. I mean, but I'm not saying we're going to even make the playoffs next year. I think that we'll scoot up there to like 35 wins and maybe 40. Who knows if everything clicks right. A lot of things have clicked wrong this year. So that could happen. And so even if he does stay, and even if he were to re-sign with us, he would be 36. And by the time we were really ready to compete and have a chance at going deeper into the playoffs. What we don't want to do, and fans don't realize, is when you have a chance to get a franchise changing player, you just need to do it, because otherwise you get stuck. Like the Washington Wizards, they have had 10 seasons in a row where they won 30 or more games. The Pacers have had 12 seasons where they've won like 40 or 50 games every year, but they've never gone anywhere. And I think the Pacers are in a good shape right now because they got lucky. They got to trade for Halliburton, and they have Mathurin, and those 2 young guards. You can start really fast piecing those guys together. But I think that if we had to trade Bogdanovich, we need to try to do it if we get the right package. And that is so much easier said than done. There's teams, everybody needs him. I can't imagine a team not wanting a guy that can shoot lights out. We had Jeremy Grant, and we really didn't get what I thought we should have gotten for him. I think all these teams are kicking themselves in the butt for not offering more for Jeremy Grant and outbidding Portland last year. But Bogey's showing it right now. Bogey is he's just balling out, man, and he should have some value, even though he's older. But his contract is fantastic. He's not being overpaid. He's underpaid next year. And there's not that many good free agents on the market available. And there's not that many people, especially right now, available on the trade market. And there's so many teams that are just crowded in, close to the playoffs. There's a lot of teams, within 2 or 3 games of each other. Over half the league is within 3 games of each other, I think. And so I think a lot of teams think, man, if I got one more shooter like him, but that's the challenge, is finding the team that wants him, that will give us something. I know the Lakers have talked about trading him. He's been really prevalent in trades for him, that they need another shooter. They definitely need shooting. They're like the worst 3-point shooting team. Unfortunately, when they played the Pistons recently, they shot 42% on threes when their percentage on the season is like 20 some percent. But their rumors are they could trade Patrick Beverly and maybe Kendrick Nunn and a first round draft pick. Well, the rumors are that they don't want to. They want to make sure that the trade has, that it's not a top 5 pick or top 10 pick or whatever. That they have, some restrictions on how high the draft pick can be. So the Pistons don't want that, so they might not make that trade. Well, I would say that if they said that it can't be a top 5 pick, I would still make that trade if I'm the Pistons, even though that trade isn't going to even take place until I think 2025. So there's a chance that the Lakers might not be great by then. LeBron could easily be gone by then. They say he wants to play with his son, and so he might have to move somewhere else to play with his son, but he'll be a free agent at the end of next year. And Anthony Davis is always in and out of being injured, so I don't know what's going to happen exactly with. So that pick could end up being high, because the challenge is, oh yeah, we want first round draft pick, but if you get a lot of the teams that are in contention, their first round draft picks are going to be really low first rounders. So you trade Bojan for, the Suns, and right now the Suns are struggling, so they should want him, but the Suns don't have a lot to trade. So they have Cam Thomas, which I think they planned on having him be part of their future. And so I'm not sure that they would be willing to part with him. They do have all their first round draft picks still available to them. And so that would be there's an opportunity there. So I'm not sure that the Hawks would want him. Again, I mentioned on this podcast before, I'm interested in John Collins. He can shoot the three. He's at least 6'9". He can block shots. He can rebound, and he can shoot the three. And so he's unhappy there. The team has always, for the last 3 years, there's been speculation that they're going to trade him. Their season has not been turning out. So there's a really good chance that we could buy him low. So that's that's what you want to do in the stock market. That's what you want to do when you make trades. Bogey's at all-time high. He could stay high, but it did scare me that game when we were out west and he twisted his knee and his ankle, and that looked really bad. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's out for the year. And miraculously he bounced back and was back playing fairly quick right after that. So we just gotta hang in there and see what happens with the trade market. I laugh when I hear different podcasts and people try to speculate. A lot of interest is out there in Noel, and I was always impressed with him. He can't shoot, he can't really score, but he's an outstanding defender. He can block shots. He's real mobile. And so there's rumors out there that a lot of teams out there are interested in, but Dallas is one of the teams that supposed to be interested in him, but who do they have to trade? I mean, if they trade us Reggie Bullock, he's a older wing, he's a 3-and-D guy, which you always want those, but then all of a sudden you trade for him. He's not young anymore. He was young when the Pistons drafted him, but not anymore, and he's not been shooting good this year. And so whose place is he going to take? So are you going to bench him, bench Sadiq in favor of him? I'm not sure you want to do that. So and we have Knox. Is he going to be better than Knox? Knox has been knocking down shots lately, and he's been blocking some shots, and he's been real active when he's gotten some good runs out on the court. He has been playing better. So I'm not sure where that would fit. So that's, again, I think if we do make a trade, I'd be interested in seeing if we ever package some players together. I also think that very good chance that would have to be at least a 3-way trade, and those things are complicated and hard, but Troy's good at that stuff, and I'm optimistic, even if we had to throw Sadiq in, and I know many of you wouldn't want to do that, and he still could end up being a good player. But here's our thing. We have Sadiq and Stu and Killian. They are all going to be extension eligible this summer. And so we got to decide, you can't pay everybody big money. And so whether they want big money or not, maybe they would settle for, a more reasonable contract, 15 million, for example. I'm not sure, but if they wanted more, and I think always players and their agents always value them more than what they probably are really worth. Just like parents, when you're coaching, they always think their kids are better than they really are, which parents should think that. So I'm not saying that that's wrong. So anyway, we're gonna have three players right there that we're gonna have to decide whether we want to sign to an extension. So you can't, and then Cade is going to be the next year, and he's gonna, hopefully he comes back from surgery and he's the player that we all anticipate that he's going to be, and then he's going to get a huge contract. So salary cap wise, then we're all of a sudden going to be, we got all the space right now, but we are going to be challenged for space. So I really do believe that we need to get another good player out of the draft this year. And I'll repeat myself again. Cade's injured. He's out for the year. So that's going to hurt us. We've already off to a pretty bad start. And so it just would pay us to try, get a top pick. So I'm going to go through the draft, make sure you understand there are 30 teams in the NBA and there's 15 in each conference. The 16 teams make the playoffs, 8 from each division. And so that means there's 16 teams make it, 14 teams don't. So those 14 teams all are in the lottery. Now the team that has the 14th is the 14th place, get the 14th pick, they have less than 1% chance of getting the top pick. And then it just goes down. And so like for top four get 14%, the fourth team gets 12.5%, and then it just continues to gradually go down by a 1.5% or 2% each pick after that. So what happens if you finish in the bottom three and you don't get one of the top 4 picks? So the lottery is only for the first 4 picks in the draft. After the first 4 picks, the draft goes in order of the worst record. If some teams jump ahead that finish not in the top 4 and they end up in the lottery, they're able to jump ahead and get a top 4 pick, then that means everybody else has to move back a space. So if the Pistons, like this, what happened to the Pistons this year, Orlando, they had Orlando and Houston both had bad records like Detroit. I think Detroit had the second worst record. Houston had the worst record. But Oklahoma City jumped ahead, and Sacramento got the 4th pick, and Oklahoma City got the 2nd pick. And then, Orlando and Houston Orlando got the 1st pick, and Houston got the 3rd pick. So that pushed Detroit back. So because Detroit had the worst record of the remaining teams, they got the 5th pick. So that still is an advantage if you don't get pushed back further, or if other teams get pushed back further, then you're not going to get as high a pick. And so every pick can matter. There are some, likely good players in the draft that is supposed to be this year, and some young wings that are real athletic. And so we'll see. You just got to, be patient, but give yourself the best chance. Take advantage of the position you're in. This year is disappointing. I did think that we were going to be a little bit better. I didn't think that we were going to win more than 30 games. Actually, after we got Bogey, then I thought maybe we could jump up to 33 or something. But by trading Bogey, we would pretty much ensure ourselves of being in the bottom 3, I think. And again, I am not going to trade him for nothing, and I'm still optimistic that we would trade him. The talk is, and it's been thrown out there, James Edwards has reported that, we're not going to trade him for nothing, that we're happy with him and that we want to keep him. Well, I'm happy with him too, and Burks. Our team has changed so much since we got Burks, and before he was healthy, I had anticipated that would be true. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of our players, and it has been great. We've had some entertaining games. Everybody wants to win so bad, but we've had some fun games. The Laker game was a lot of fun. We ended up losing, but we had it down close right till the end. It was a close game, and LeBron was insanely good that day, and Anthony Davis was crazy good, and a lot of their players played really well. But our players played well. We outscored them in the second half, and we came right down to the wire, and we lost. So those are the games I like. I, you know, right now, because of the position we're in, I like us to lose. I like us to play well. I like us to have entertaining games. And most of all, I like to see our young players get better. And that is happening. And like Coach Beeline says, he sees players improving all the time. He works with players on their shot. I just want to give a shout out to John Beeline. He's got inducted into the Hall of Fame recently, and he is a great coach. I think it's funny, people when somebody's not shooting well, they say, "Oh, John Beeline, Killian Hayes can't make a shot because John Beeline's ruined his shot," or whatever. But that's not the case. Well, Killian Hayes, John Beeline did work a lot with Killian Hayes, and his shot has amazingly improved. And I would say, he is it's really cool to hear the announcers, Special K and different people on podcasts. They come on and they say, after there's been about 5 games in the last 20 games, I bet, where they've said, "Oh, this was Killian Hayes' best game of his career." Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts about the draft and how people evaluate players, and I get to hear, a lot of these college guys, freshmen that people think are going to be in the top 7 of the draft. They're not doing that great in college right now. I just can imagine if there was a 21-year-old college player that was playing like Killian Hayes played, against Charlotte, for example, where he had 25 points and he made a bunch of threes, and he's had 2 games where he's, at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime, where he's 2 games where he's made 2 enormous threes in overtime. So I think that he could revert. He might not pan out to be as good player. I was hoping that he would end up being a rotational player that could come off the bench and be a backup point guard. And if you get injuries, which are always injuries in the NBA, that he could come in and start if you needed him to. But he right now looks like there is an opportunity that he might be better than that. And that was because of, this year that we've had, that Cade got hurt and we're not that good. So the team has been able to stay with him and keep giving him opportunities. And finally, it seems like the light switch clicked on and he is, playing really well. If you've listened to my podcast, you know how much I love Jalen Duren. And every podcast since the preseason one, I said, play that kid. And I've been saying, start him. And it took Coach Casey, a month since I've been saying that, for over a month. And finally they started him. And I've been saying, play that kid more minutes. And finally they started playing him more minutes. And, he had that game against the Charlotte Hornets where he had played 36 minutes. And I know some podcasters think that, oh, he's too young, he can't play that many minutes. But he had 19 rebounds, and that's just unbelievable. And he's just a warrior out there. And I just will say this, that he has exceeded expectations. There's the only one other player that in NBA history that was a teenager that had 12 plus rebounds, and that was Dwight Howard. And so I just really believe that he is the real deal, and I think that he's going to be great for us for a long time. And I've said that he's a boy among men playing like a man among boys, and that's my quote. And I don't know if you like it or not, but I think that he is, he does play like a man among boys, even though he is the youngest player in the NBA. I got a big kick out of him when they asked him after we played Indiana last night, and they said, "How hard was it guarding Sabonis?" He said, "Not hard." So he's tough and he's confident, and it's good to hear. And he's been, most of his shots are dunks, and that's the big thing. If you can get dunks, and he's able to gather himself quickly and go up quickly and dunk quickly, and that's going to make him better. And he has shown signs so that he can. His shot's gotten better. His free throw looks better. Coach Beeline says he still needs a little bit more arc, but he's going to get there. He's skilled and he's got talent. And so, unlike a lot of big guys don't have skill and talent. And I mean, like, a lot of big guys can't make free throws. He is struggling to shoot free throws, but I like his shot. I think it's going to get better. Ivy's been a real challenge. it's been a little hard for me because I have never disliked Killian, but it was always hard for me with Killian because I said before I was going into the draft I was adamant that I wanted Therese Halliburton. Now most experts would say if you did a redraft of that year's 2020 draft that Therese Halliburton would be taken number one. So that's hard, and I last year I wanted Detroit to take Benedict Mathurin or Shaden Sharp ahead of Ivy, but we took Ivy. And so Ivy has had some great games, but since he came back from the injury, he's really struggled. And a lot of it, again, is confidence, just like Killian had to struggle with confidence. A lot of rookies are inconsistent. So Mathurin and Sharp, they started out just amazingly well. And recently they're struggling a little bit recently. And again, when you're young players like that, you end up being inconsistent. So, again, I just hope that people see that I'm not just trying to, you could be honorable and say you should try to win every game as hard as you can. And I'm going to tell you, I was a coach. I coach and I want to win so bad. Even if we're in a summer scrimmage, it doesn't even count for your record and you're erasing the score after every quarter. I wanted to win every quarter. But I just see this as, we want to develop young players, and so let them play. And if we can get a valuable asset for Bogey, we need to make the move because not only will that help ensure us of getting a higher pick, realistically, he's not going to be around when we are going to be ready to really win. So he is, I can't deny that he is exponentially such a factor on this team where he is, his leadership. I went to the first practice before the season started. They had an open practice, and I just could see him there. He just had joined the team, and he's already talking to the guys. You watch every game when they go for timeouts or on free throws. He's talking to players. He plays his guts out. He plays hard. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but that's something that you want your young players to see. You want them to see a veteran. He opens things up and gives other players more opportunities. The young players get to see how he goes to work every day, but we've got to see that. They've got to see that for at least half a season. And so when you take into consideration all the other factors, then it just seems to me that that is the best option if we can get a good, decent package. Burks, everybody should want Burks. I'm not sure what's going to happen if people are what they're going to trade for him. Again, I'm not positive how much he's worth, even a late first round pick. We probably would take that, but he's got a great contract. Him and Noel have great contracts. They're about $9 million this year and $9 million next year. But if a team trades for him and has him this year, and they decide they don't want him, and they want to get their money off the books, they can cut them. So it's the team has the rights. It's a team. What's it called? They have the extension is team friendly, so the team gets to decide whether they give him the next year or not give him the next year. So we had that game last night, was against Sacramento. They're a up and coming team. I thought they were going to be pretty good this year. We played 8-point lead at halftime, so that's good. And then we came out and we got smashed in the start of the third quarter. They outscored us like, I don't know if it was 16-2. They hit every shot in like six minutes. They scored just a ton of points, and our defense still is, our biggest detriment. We struggle to guard people, so different things are going to have to change. And I think that, obviously we have to get better defenders. So getting a high draft pick, Wembanyama is just a freak at blocking shots, and he's real mobile and active, and he could make a big difference. But there are other players that are in the draft that are going to be picked high that are real athletic and long and, going to be good players. So we just got to get better on defense. If we sign anybody as free agents, we need to try to get somebody that can defend and not get a negative defender on our team. I mentioned before that Kyle Kuzma is going to be a free agent. He's 27, and he's, a lot of people are going to be after him. So there is, we got free agent money, but just like trading, we got the best trade assets. Burks, Bogey, and Noel are I think have some value, but finding the right trade and but there's not that many of people that are going to want them or need them that have that many assets that we want. And the same thing with Kyle Kuzma is going to be a free agent, and there's going to be a lot of teams that want him. So for him to get to come to Detroit is, you just can't be sure that you're going to get who you want, just like you've been trading for John Collins. And so the other downfall, if you trade for John Collins, then you're going to maybe win more games. So who knows? The Grizzlies, I think, would be an interesting team to trade to, and they're already into the position like we could be, where you can't just have too many young players at the same time, and then there's only so many roster spots, and you keep on getting more draft picks. And so at some time you have to streamline your team, and you have to kind of consolidate your assets and try to get other players. So they have some draft picks and they have some good players. And the Pelicans, man, I wish we could get Trey Murphy. He's like 6'9" and he can shoot the three, and he is just a sensational player. So you never can tell. There are players that are good late. There are some players develop slower than others, like we're hoping Killian does. Desmond Bane was 22 years old when he was drafted. He was drafted 30th. Before he got injured and hurt his toe, and now he's been out for over a month, I think, but he was playing at an all-star level. He was averaging like 25 points a game and shooting really high percentages from the 2-point line and the 3-point line and the free throw line. And so you just don't know what's going to happen with players. But I just hope you will consider my opinion. And again, I'm not saying my opinion's right, but I just think that we have a chance to get a player. We have a 14% chance. And again, I don't buy lottery tickets. I didn't buy a lottery ticket when it got over $2 million, but your chances, like I said, are so slim. 14% chance to get a player like Victor, and being in the position we're in, we do have these great assets that can help us. And I just am so enthusiastic and so optimistic about, like Coach Beeline, about our future. And we got a bunch of good young players that are going to get better. And I think, again, we can add one just sensational player in the draft and maybe in trades too. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient. I know I rambled a little bit, but I love our Pistons, and I want to see them have a bright future and be great for 10 years. And I think that we have a chance right now. We're in a really good spot, and there's no guarantee. There's a lot of really good young teams. So Orlando they're 5-5 in the last 10 games. Houston's 5-5 in the last 10 games, and everybody thought they were going to be behind the Pistons, and we're playing more veterans than they are. So they're playing a lot of young kids. So it's going to be challenging, but it's exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting to see Duren and see him grow right before us. And I'm real optimistic. The Ivy is going to get better, and he does. He's really going to need to, I think, change his shot during the summer and get that ironed out. And I think Cade, hopefully, he'll come back and he'll have more arc on his shot. I'm really confident in that. And so, but thank you for listening. Thank you to Kelly for editing this and helping me with this in every different way. And my nephew Nathan, for all of his help and encouragement. Thank you for listening. Please share it with a Piston fan and let them know that, to give it a try. If you are listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe. It's free, and like it. And have a great day. Do something great for somebody, nice for somebody today. Make their day better. We got a lot of people out there. It's not an easy world to live in, and you can just say something or do something for somebody to make their life better. So again, have a great day and go Pistons.